Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto trained from the beginning and claimed Hinata, Ino, Tenten and Temari, part 3. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this and comment for next part. And now let's start the fanfic. Hinata turned and saw Gaara approach, from where she knelt over Naruto's limp form. Gaara. She remembered his name from Naruto's first attempt to talk with him. What are you doing here? Can you heal Naruto Uzumaki? Gaara demanded. Can you remove the curse from his neck? Hinata shook her head. From what Orochimaru said, it sounds like it won't hurt him unless they fight again, but I don't know Fuinjutsu, so I can't say for sure, and I doubt I can remove it. Try, he commanded. He must not fail this test. He swore to battle me. After a moment's consideration, Gaara produced an earth scroll from his pocket, and tossed it at Hinata's feet. He turned to Kiba. You're more powerful than most genin in this forest. Still weak, but not as weak. Guard these two. I and my team will follow Orochimaru. We'll do what? Kankuro shouted in disbelief. Gaara turned and glared at him wordlessly. But why? He asked desperately. Orochimaru created that Juinjutsu, Gaara replied, and pointed to Naruto's neck. He alone knows how to remove it. So you're telling me we're gonna capture an S-rank criminal alive, bring him back here, and force him to remove this seal? Temari questioned. Gaara, I'm sorry, but that's just crazy. We're genin. Gaara locked eyes with his sister, who flinched in expectation of his killing intent, but he didn't use it. I'm the Jinchuriki of the One-Tails. I have its power at my disposal, and Orochimaru is still an ordinary man. You two will merely serve as distractions to him. Temari took a deep breath. Gaara, please, we can't beat Orochimaru. That would be like fighting our father. I fully intend to kill the Cage, Gaara said simply. Now follow me, Temari, Kankuro. Orochimaru is getting away. Discover more. Books and literature. Books. Kankuro gulped, but nodded, and Temari forced herself to do the same. Once they resumed flying through the trees, Kankuro whispered, Gaara's finally lost it completely. I think you're right, but Temari shrugged, then ducked a branch that might have whipped her in the face. If that's true, why does he seem less likely to kill us than he did this morning? Kankuro gave a nervous, quiet chuckle. A miracle, I guess. Gaara picked up his speed, and cut off the Sannin who was walking on the ground without concern. He appeared in Orochimaru's path, and his gourd dissolved into a mass of sand that writhed viciously at his feet. And who are you? Orochimaru asked, amused. Oh, hold on, I recognize you. Gaara, the son of the Cage and Jinchuriki of Shukaku, yes. Gaara made no response, but his sand floated forward, a bit closer to Orochimaru. Remove the cursed seal from Naruto Uzumaki's neck, Gaara rasped, but if he was angry, it wasn't detectable at all. And if I don't? Orochimaru sneered. I will kill you, Gaara echoed Naruto's threat. That should be sufficient to destroy your Juinjutsu, but I want to spare you, if only to find out why no one kills their opponents here. Is there some kind of gratification to be earned through mercy? Does it reinforce the value of my existence, more than simply killing? Or are they simply too weak to finish their victims? I want to know. Kurama's 9 tails lashed angrily at the floor and bars of his cage. The serene valley Naruto had created was gone, replaced by a barren cave of earth and stone, dimly lit by torches that had appeared in random places throughout Naruto's corrupted subconscious. The walls dripped a purplish-black liquid that Kurama recognized as chakra. Naruto appeared 2 feet above the floor of the cavern, and hit the ground hard enough to jolt him back into awareness. He looked around. What happened in here? This is the work of that snake's senjutsu chakra, the mighty demon growled. He has injected you, with a vast supply of natural energy carrying his consciousness and intent. Through that seal, he can suppress your will and flood your chakra network with his own power, rendering us helpless. But we can fight it, in here. Natural energy. Naruto repeated. That must be what Hinata and I are seeing. The chakra of the world around us. Focus, Naruto, the demon fox commanded. If we're to break the seal, we must eliminate all of this senjutsu chakra. His power should manifest in this world, in a form we can kill. And can it kill us too? Kurama paused. Quote. I don't know. I don't want to know. The black liquid flowing down the walls began to surge and pour faster, and gathered in pools at the base of the walls. Tendrils of unwelcome chakra connected all of the pools into a single point in front of Naruto, where the liquid took a human shape and color scheme. Naruto's eyes widened as he recognized the Sannin. Oh Orochimaru, what the hell are you doing, taking a Chunin exam in disguise? Ah, so you've heard of me. Orochimaru regurgitated his sword again, and took a defensive stance. I'm here for your Rinnegan, and Sasuke Uchiha's Sharingan. Naruto reached for his own sword, but the scabbard on his back was empty. He sighed, and lowered his right hand back to join his left in a hand seal. How many limits do I have in the real world, that didn't follow me here? He wondered aloud. Kurama whipped his tails at the bars of his cage, unable to reach the battle that was about to begin. Naruto glanced back over his shoulder, and promised the 9 tails, if I can't take him alone, I'll open that cage for you. Kurama's eyes widened, and Naruto added, I'll have to trust you not to step on my village and kill my friends once you get out. Orochimaru grimaced at the thought of fighting the 9 tails demon fox alone, both in Naruto's subconscious, and in the real world once his senjutsu avatar was inevitably destroyed. He leapt at Naruto with Kusanagi aimed to impale his foe, but Naruto turned back in time to see him approach. Kiba's fire aura flared brighter, an attempt to intimidate the 6 genin surrounding him, Hinata, and an unconscious Naruto. Back off, he growled through a partially transformed throat. Baskerville was only one of the levels to his Hellhound mode, but he'd end up burning down the forest if he wasn't careful. Each transformation brought him closer to Akamaru's mind and further from his own, and if he wasn't careful, he'd end up forgetting the concept of a forest fire. 3 genin wearing white jumpsuits, sashes over their faces with holes for their eyes, and metal masks which appeared to help their breathing, eyed the earth scroll at Hinata's feet. The other 3 were dressed in green. 2 wore green and white jumpsuits and straw hats, but the third, the apparent leader of the team, wore a dark green trenchcoat, a blue and white jumpsuit, and no hat. Oboro, looks like this one's yours, the boy in the trenchcoat noted, pointing to the earth scroll at Hinata's feet. She stood, having been crouching over Naruto, but in a cruel twist of fate, the heaven scroll in her weapon's pouch fell, joining the earth scroll at her feet. The boy in the trenchcoat leaned forward. Ah, scratch that. 2 on 6. The one named Oboro nodded. Hinata glanced down at the scroll. This was the first time in her life anything had fallen out of her pouch. Kiba, maybe we should just give them the scrolls, she noted sadly. No freaking way. We can get Naruto to that tower, and then they'll let us out if we have both scrolls. We can get him to a medic nin. Kiba clasped his hands together in the tiger hand seal. Hinata's Byakugan activated silently, and she settled into a gentle fist stance. You're right, she immediately agreed, then addressed the 6 genin opposing them. I'll try not to kill you, but gentle fist strikes tend to damage the organs, even if I strike you on a weaker tenketsu like one on your wrist. I won't hesitate, so please just turn and go. The one in the trenchcoat laughed. How old are you? 10. I'm 12, Hinata replied, and almost smirked, but not quite. And I don't like your tone. How old are you? She countered. 19. So you either failed the genin exam, or this one, for 7 straight years, maybe more. Which was it? Shiger flinched at how accurate her guesses had been. I'm gonna kill you, he growled, you little bitch. Kiba's fire armor intensified, and he growled like the animal he was proud to be. Hinata didn't move, didn't breathe or blink, she simply maintained her taijutsu stance and prepared herself for the attack she knew was coming. The other 6 genin began making hand seals. Naruto sidestepped Orochimaru's GN, which would have otherwise pierced his heart. I get it now, he declared, using what appeared to be his Asura path to form a silver cutlass. Back when the Sannin were a team, you focused on ninjutsu. You wanted to learn every ninjutsu in the world. Correct, Orochimaru replied, but frowned when Naruto easily parried his next attack. So you never studied taijutsu, did you? You thought it was a waste of precious time, that you could better spend learning another ninjutsu or two. Instead, you picked up this sword. Naruto slapped his blade against the Sannins, and dodged a futile lunge. And you never learned proper swordplay either. You just decided, like I did, that you could use a sword to scare away taijutsu users. You're fast, I'll admit that, but I actually learned kenjutsu. That's why you haven't killed me already, and why I'll probably beat you this time. Ah, but I'm not limited to kenjutsu, Orochimaru replied, and leapt into the air away from Naruto, dropping his sword mid-jump so he could form hand seals. Shinra Tensai, Naruto shouted, and aimed his left palm at Orochimaru, who froze in midair. Or at least, that's what it feels like, right? The diva path of the Rinnegan has limited control over gravity. Orochimaru scowled down at Naruto, confused. Gravity can be defined as the attractive force created by two masses. Anything with mass can exert gravity, he quoted one of Iruka's lessons, and added, but can chakra exert that force? Does chakra, or a thought, have mass? What are you getting at, boy? Orochimaru spat. There's no gravity in here, Naruto replied simply. Because there is no here. You're in my mind, in my thoughts, and in here, I have total control over reality. Here's the proof. I'm not using my Rinnegan yet. He held up his new cutlass, which dissolved into silver flakes that then disappeared completely. You're held in place there by my thoughts, not gravity. Still, Naruto paused, and grinned, I've been wanting to try this really cool ninjutsu that I just don't have the chakra for in the real world. It's called Chibaku Tensai. Orochimaru's eyes widened, and he resumed making hand seals so quickly his hands blurred together. Sage Art. Water Dragon Bullet Jutsu. A serpent 10 times the size of Hinata's creation leapt forth from Orochimaru's hands, enhanced by the natural energy he could only unleash through a cursed seal. Ha! Naruto swung his right palm forward to face the dragon, and a pulse of barely visible energy, like a heat wave, rippled forth from his hand and obliterated the water dragon. He snarled, and shoved his left hand forward as well. Another wave of force struck Orochimaru, but all he could do was wince where he floated as it struck. Naruto clasped both of his outstretched hands together, and brought them back to his chest. He breathed in deeply, then let the breath back out as a loud sigh, and pulled his hands apart. Within them, a marble-sized ball of pitch blackness floated innocently, and Naruto smirked down at it excitedly. Chibaku Tensai. Kurama bared his teeth in a proud grin. I suppose I could do worse for a host after all, he noted. The jutsu that the sage used to create the moon. Even if you don't have enough chakra to use it in reality, the fact that you know it is surprising enough. Let's see how you wield it, boy. Naruto roared, and threw the singularity forward. The black sphere struck Orochimaru's chest and stuck there. Almost immediately, the walls of the cavern began to creak and groan. The ball of false gravity tore at them until they shattered, and their pieces flew together, slamming one by one into Orochimaru. Naruto, meanwhile, was using his thoughts more directly, willing indestructible chains into existence that tethered him to Kurama's cage, and said cage to the ground. Once Orochimaru was completely entombed in a sphere of stone the size of a fully unleashed Biju, Naruto applied his omnipotence to their surroundings, replacing the dim cavern with a brightly sunlit field of grass under a thin layer of snow. That should startle him, when he gets out, Naruto announced, and squinted at the light. He survived that? Kurama asked, mildly surprised. That's not a real human being, the human pointed out to the walking ocean of chakra. It's just a chunk of chakra that looks like Orochimaru. To destroy it, I can damage it directly, but that thing doesn't have a heart, a brain, or a spine. Burn. I have to hit it until it just dissolves. Or, I can let it use ninjutsu until it burns itself out. I wish I could just tear him into little bits with my mind, but it looks like that won't work for some reason. He shrugged. At least I get to beat the tar out of him for threatening Hina-chan. Likely the cursed seal. It gives him some limited measure of control over your mind. Kurama paused. Would you really free me? If it meant winning this battle. Kurama-san, Naruto replied sadly, I hope I get to release you one day, but I don't want it to be like this. I want to let you back into a world you can appreciate and love. The Biju snorted. No, really, believe it. You'll enjoy the world more if you don't hate humans, and I want to make it so they don't hate you either. Stick to the Hokage obsession. It's a vastly more realistic goal. They're not all an angry mob out for our blood, you know. Remind me to find some way to introduce you to Hina-chan, and Kiba, and Asuma-sensei, Iruka-sensei and even Hokage-sama. Kurama laughed, genuinely amused. I suspect all but your little girlfriend would flee, or attack me. Then we'll start with Hinata. She'll be nice to you, believe it. Naruto would have said more, but the sound of cracking stone drew his attention. A shining bronze snake's head, 10 feet long, burst through the surface of the artificial planet, and opened its mouth, revealing Orochimaru, who winced at the unexpected bright light around him. Cool. I didn't know you could use summons inside my mind. Orochimaru smirked. It's as you say. Neither this world, nor anything in it, truly exists. Hence I imagined one of my familiars into existence, but this is no more than an image under my control. Okay. And how much of your chakra did that take? Naruto countered with a smug grin. Orochimaru grimaced. More than I would have liked, he admitted. Influencing your thoughts to my advantage is no easy task, and it drains the energy in the cursed seal, which is to say me. The miniature planet behind him vanished into thin air, and he glanced back over his shoulder at the dull sound of it warping into nothingness. When he turned back, he jumped away, startled. Naruto had been standing right in front of him, and the far younger shinobi noted, good thing I don't have that weakness, or this fight might have come close to fair. Why, little brat, I can't wait to rip your eyes out, Orochimaru replied. Ah, I'm getting chills already. Perhaps I'll do it while you're still alive to scream, He grinned, and ed his lips, then held out his hand and beckoned with a single finger for Kusanagi to return. The Jien shot hilt first at him, and landed comfortably in his hand. The Sannin grinned evilly, and pointed the tip of his blade at Naruto. Naruto willed another cutlass into existence, and folded his left arm behind his back. His left foot extended forward and his right slid backward slightly, and he held his cutlass in front of himself, relaxed. Orochimaru waved his sword lazily, directing the bronze serpent to attack, and it lunged at Naruto. The genin, however, simply slashed it in half, snout to tail, with a crescent of shimmering blue light that extended from the tip of his cutlass and shot through the snake. The two halves of the beast fell in a shower of blood, then vanished from Naruto's subconscious without a trace. Yetsuga Tenshou, Naruto named the attack after its blue light faded. Another Rinnegan jutsu? Orochimaru asked, impressed. Nope. Naruto replied with a grin. Just a manga reference I've always wanted to use. Kids these days, Orochimaru noted sadly, shaking his head slightly, then charged forward with his sword raised. Naruto let go of his sword, willing it to float in midair while he crafted hand seals. Wind release. Wind scar. Orochimaru swung his blade skyward, shattering the fragile blades generated by the C-rank ninjutsu. Air bullet. Naruto continued without a pause. The second, B-rank attack forced Orochimaru to dodge. Drilling air bullet. The third jutsu, the signature A-rank technique of the one-tailed Shukaku, was too fast to dodge, so Orochimaru simply caught the swirling ball of wind on his sword. In reality this would have killed him, but Orochimaru poured his chakra into influencing Naruto's thoughts enough that the jutsu split in two and sailed past the Sannin. Orochimaru resumed his approach, but stopped after a moment. Quote. Wait. You don't look drained at all, not even after using Chibaku Tensei, and those wind jutsu. Why not? I'm not really using ninjutsu, Naruto admitted with a shrug, and plucked his sword out of the air. I'm just imagining these attacks, and they happen. I'd love to start throwing lava at you, but since that's an image I'm less familiar with, it might drain my chakra or move slower than a wind release jutsu. That Getsuga Tenshou I used did both. So, I can't possibly overpower you, Orochimaru realized. Naruto nodded. But I've had my fun now. He stepped backward a few paces, passing through the bars of Kurama's cage. He sheathed the silver sword he'd imagined into existence, and slapped his hands together in a short sequence of hand seals. Your turn, Kurama-san. Substitution Jutsu. X. Meanwhile, the real Orochimaru considered summoning the real Kusanagi. Despite the Sannin unleashing the full extent of his killing intent, Gaara hadn't budged, and in fact seemed mildly angered. Quote. I'll ask it of you once more, the crimson-haired boy rasped. Remove the cursed seal, this is your last chance. The concept of mercy no longer amuses me. Orochimaru smirked, and stated proudly, I dissected the last foe who tried to bluff me like this. Gaara said nothing and remained immobile, but the sand around him rose up in a massive wave. Orochimaru watched the surge close in, still smirking. Gaara's line of sight was briefly obstructed by his own attack, and Orochimaru chose that moment to deploy the body fair and reappear behind the Ikibi Jinchuriki. He lashed out with Kusanagi at the back of Gaara's neck, but a tendril of glistening tan sand caught the blade. 8 far better swordsmen than you have tried that, Gaara growled without turning to face Orochimaru. Of those 8, 4 were Anbu assassins. I killed them all. He held up his right hand, and clenched it into a fist where Orochimaru could see. Sand coffin. A lesser weapon would have been ground into dust, but Kusanagi was indestructible, and instead it was merely swallowed by the sand and torn from Orochimaru's grasp. The snake Sannin retreated with another body fair, and Gaara turned to face him. Orochimaru tried to summon Kusanagi to his hand, but the weapon remained buried in Gaara's sand. He scowled, and dodged another stream of sand that obliterated the branch he'd been perched on. Gaara turned, and his grin was horrifying enough to even startle Orochimaru. We've been getting ahead of ourselves, haven't we, mother? He swung his left arm wildly, and a flow of sand traced a larger version of the same arc, slamming violently into Orochimaru. Here we are fighting a powerful opponent, and I concern myself with a seal on someone else's neck. I should just revel in the proof of my existence, shouldn't I, mother? He must be talking to the spirit of the One-Tails, Orochimaru observed. It looks as though he's about to draw on its power. I'm certain I could handle even that, but there's still the matter of marking Sasuke Uchiha with my cursed seal. And if I face Gaara in his tailed beast mode, I'll end up killing him. That's no good for the attack plan. Gaara no Sabaku, I'll admit this was an amusing little encounter, but I have business elsewhere. Goodbye. You're not going anywhere. Gaara howled, and latched 2 tentacles of sand around the Sannin's ankles. Orochimaru opened his mouth, and an identical copy of his head emerged from within. Dripping a pale green liquid, Orochimaru emerged completely, like a snake shedding its skin, and disappeared into the forest. Gaara roared and seethed, but Shukaku's influence receded without any prey in the Biju's sight. The Jinchuriki growled in frustration as he was reminded of Naruto's plight. After a moment's consideration, he followed Orochimaru. Hidden in the tree leaves above, Kankuro sighed, and leapt away in pursuit of his younger brother. Temari followed, frowning. A kunai flew toward the back of Hinata's head, and she leaned out of the way with a fluid, lightning-fast motion. Her Byakugan continued to track the blade as it passed her, and stabbed into the belly of one of the white-clad genin, revealing him to be an illusion when he dissolved into white fog. This surprised neither Hinata nor Kiba. Kiba's sense of smell warned him, and Hinata's Dujutsu showed her that the boy was simply a cloud of chakra without a chakra network or tenketsu. Kiba turned to face the direction the kunai had been thrown from, and caught sight of one of the green-clad genin from the other team, who blanched. Kiba moved faster than a normal eye could see, and Hinata's Dujutsu could barely keep up. He arrived in front of the genin and punched him in the jaw, leaving a burn and a fracture on the now unconscious boy. That's just sad. A normal genin would be able to dodge that attack. I even pulled my punch, and he's still out cold. The half-canine genin turned to face the oldest boy present, the one wearing the green trenchcoat. I can smell the fear on the other guy. Kiba nodded to the boy at Shigur's side. He continued, I'm guessing you just bullied these two into coming with you as a three-man team. They must have known, with this kind of skill, they wouldn't make Chunin, but in order to get into the exam you need a full team, and you thought you could pass the exam, right? That's low. I'll make you a deal though. Fight me one-on-one, and your sidekick there can sit it out. What about your teammate? Shigur questioned as his partner fled. She's up against 3 genin from AIM, and I grew up with them. I can tell you right now they're strong. PFF'd. Hinata's gonna destroy him, Kiba replied simply. That's right. Don't worry about me, Hinata called, then addressed the apparent army of white-clad genin. My Byakugan can see through your clones, and since they have no chakra network I can tell them apart from the real 3 of you. She pointed to each of the real shinobi hidden amongst the clones. It's not a genjutsu, like the basic clone jutsu, but they're still harmless, that much I can see. So what are they made from? This is the fog clone jutsu, one of the clones admitted. Ideal for use in AIM, where it's always rainy and miserable. Then the army of clones fell apart into a cloud of mist, which wasn't thick enough to interfere with either side's vision. It's our favorite jutsu, one of the real 3 added, but it's not our only weapon. We'll still beat you. So, Shigur asked Kiba, what are you, anyway? A Jinchuriki? Kiba glanced down at the form he shared with Akamaru. It does look that way, doesn't it? This is the first time I've used it in a real fight, and I gotta say it's pretty cool. He looked back up at Shigur, who was drawing one of his 4 umbrellas from the holsters sewn into his trenchcoat. An umbrella? Kiba questioned, confused. I expected some kind of sword. What the hell are you gonna do with that? Shigur smirked, and Kiba bared his teeth in a growl. On second thought, I don't wanna know. He lunged at the AIM genin, who swatted Kiba's first punch aside with his umbrella. Kiba followed up with 4 more punches, the last 3 of which struck their target, both burning and bludgeoning Shigur's chest. The AIM genin kicked himself off the ground violently, vaulting into the air away from Kiba. He unfurled his umbrella and tossed it into the air, where it floated and began to spin, firing Senbon needles randomly in all directions. Kiba scowled, noticing Shigur draw a second umbrella to hide under. He made a few hand seals, then aimed his open palms at the umbrella and the Senbon pouring out of it. Fire release. Hellhound barrier. The flames cloaking Kiba's half-dog form abandoned him, and intercepted the rain of Senbon as a horizontal wall of red fire that melted the steel needles and caught the molten metal. Another hand seal twisted the wall in midair, pouring the droplets of metal harmlessly into the dirt. The flames returned to Kiba's skin, and he cracked his knuckles. You've got 3 more of those, he noted as the umbrella, now emptied of Senbon, landed between the 2 genin. Then what? Shigur scowled and folded the umbrella in his right hand, then swung it, unleashing a cluster of needles from its tip. Kiba dodged. Even though his flames were hot enough to melt such weapons, they'd still pierce through his cloak before they melted. If his weapons are all like this, I could use the second level of Hellhound mode. Its cloak is strong enough to melt kunai on contact, and Senbon won't stand a chance, but I want to beat him with only the first level. This power is supposed to be my main jutsu, and if I need to go so far as using level 2 on this chump. 2 palms. Hinata called, and set to work dismantling a white-clad genin's tenketsu. 4 palms. 8 palms. She dodged a feeble punch from the boy, and doubled her speed again, frowning with concentration. 16 palms. She continued, and finished with an ordinary kick to the boy's sternum. He fell, and she turned to face one of his two allies. You can choose to leave at any time, she noted. We have nothing to gain from hurting or chasing you. Just go, she implored. Kagari's a tough kid, one of his teammates noted. He'll be fine, and he wouldn't want us to give up. Actually, Hinata replied in an apologetic tone, I just shut down 16 of Kagari's core tenketsu, which connect to the heart, liver and lungs. In 2 minutes, his breathing will falter. In 3, it'll stop altogether, she admitted with concern in her voice. His liver will stop filtering toxins out of his blood, and his heart will stop completely in under 5 minutes. I can reactivate those tenketsu easily and stop that damage, but only if you surrender. Kiba dodged another set of needles, and drew a kunai from his weapon's pouch. The cloth wrapped around its hilt burned away at his touch, and the metal glistened bright orange from the heat. There was a fuinjutsu on his clothing that prevented it from turning to ash, and kept the heat out of his weapon's pouch, but once a kunai was drawn it had no protection from the flames. He threw the superheated kunai, which Shiger took to be a serious threat, and dodged. What the hell was that? Shiger watched the glowing kunai pass him. He turned back to face Kiba, and jumped when he saw the boy already making hand seals. Fire release. Fireball jutsu. Shiger tossed aside his umbrella, and drew a third one from his back, this one larger and reinforced with iron plates for use as a shield. He crouching behind it and winced as the flames washed over his shelter, then sighed in relief when they passed. Shiger looked up, and saw 24 small fireballs change their path after passing by his shield. Damn it! He rolled frantically out of the way, and the phoenix flowers slammed into the dirt where he'd been crouching. He scrambled to his feet, reaching for his fourth and final umbrella, but Kiba was already sprinting toward him on all fours, and the fire-clad genin tackled him. Kiba's aura of flames winked out, just before his knockout punch struck Shiger's jaw. Hinata's Byakugan showed her the entire exchange, and she nodded to where Kiba stood over Shiger. It's 2-on-2, now, she noted. If you surrender, I'll reopen your friend's chakra network, and let you leave. Water release. Water bullet jutsu. Hinata saw Oboros' attack coming from behind her even as it was formed, and she spun to face it while her fingers slipped in and out of rapid hand seals. Water release. Water bullet jutsu. She countered the attack in kind, and the two spheres of compressed water slammed together, exploding into a harmless mist that sprayed the trees and all 8 genin, conscious or otherwise. Stop it, she shouted. Just calm down and think for a second. I'm being fair about this, I really am. I won't even take your scroll, you can all go and fight some other team with minimal injuries. You haven't even used that many jutsu, you're not badly drained. Her voice hardened then. But if you won't accept my offer, I'll knock you all unconscious, take your scroll, and restore your chakra networks before I and my team leave. The two remaining AIM genin, without taking their eyes from Hinata, made their way to each other. Oboros' right hand began a sequence of seals with Mubi's left. Hinata's eyes widened, since she recognized the pattern. That jutsu, they're melding their chakra together, since it takes too much for one ordinary genin. Water release. Water dragon bullet jutsu. They roared in sync, and a torrent of water burst from each boy's mouth, tearing off the voice-distorting masks they'd forgotten to remove. Hinata watched the attack approach her, knowing she wouldn't have enough time for hand seals to counter the attack, as she had with Oboros' water bullet. The dragon approached her with red eyes that glowed with fury, and she realized exactly what jutsu she could use to counter it. She curled the fingers of her right hand like claws, and began swirling her chakra in a condensed ball in the palm of her hand. The pale blue energy glowed faintly, and gave off a humming sound to indicate the completion of the jutsu. Rasengan, she declared, and threw her armed right hand forward, meeting the dragon's snout head-on. The half-sentient ninjutsu roared in pain and fury, and pushed forward in an attempt to overpower the Rasengan. Hinata's feet dug into the softened ground, but that was all. It was too late to stop her. The spiraling sphere ripped the water dragon bullet apart into dozens of splashes that soaked the entire area. Hinata was left with a Rasengan in her palm, which was a significantly darker blue than before. A transparent teal bubble floated just past the surface of the sphere, quivering slightly from the swirling energy inside. She stared down at it, wide-eyed. Her chakra had absorbed the water release orientation from Oboro and Mubi perfectly, and she knew exactly what to do with it. Water release. Rasengan, Hinata declared, and lobbed the new jutsu at the space between Oboro and Mubi. It exploded on contact with the ground at their feet, generating twice as much water as the water dragon bullet did, and throwing it in all directions. Oboro and Mubi were both carried into the air with the water, and slammed into the ground by gravity, knocking them both out. Kurama grinned down at Orochimaru's avatar. The demon fox's eyes were alight with hate and sadistic anticipation. I haven't killed in 12 years, did you know that? He asked. Yet another thing for which I must thank my gracious host. Orochimaru turned to run, but the bars of the cage had been replaced by solid steel walls. The sole source of light was now the aura of fiery orange pouring off the Kyuubi. Ah, you're not the real Orochimaru, but you can still feel an instinctual fear of death, as if you were human. That pleases me. I haven't heard a human scream since I was sealed in here. 12 long years, as I just said. Now, scream. The persona of the cursed seal turned, and looked up at the tailed beast ball forming in front of Kurama's open jaws. It screamed. Naruto's eyes snapped open, and the cursed seal on his neck exploded into a cloud of black mist. He threw himself to his feet and drew a Hiraishin kunai, just as the mist coalesced into a hissing white snake that floated in front of him, glaring at him with Orochimaru's hateful yellow eyes. With a roar, Naruto sliced his kunai through the near-helpless creature's neck, cutting off its head. Once again, it became a cloud of mist that scattered in all directions, returning the energy of nature whence it came. Breathing heavily from the adrenaline, Naruto returned his kunai to his pouch. He touched the spot on his neck where he guessed the cursed seal had been, then looked around. He was still in the forest of death, amid a few particularly massive trees. The ground, covered in wild grass and flowers, was soaked and torn apart from an apparent battle. Hinata came out of nowhere, and nearly tackled him with a hug. Naruto-kun. She greeted him gleefully. You're all right. Kiba decided, after careful consideration including a thought of the fight he recently dominated, decided his best course of action was to deactivate his Hellhound mode, help Akamaru back into his spot in Kiba's hoodie, and lean against a tree trying to look cool. Yeah, I'm okay, Naruto agreed, then looked around again. What the heck happened, though? You passed out, Hinata began her recap. Gaara and his team showed up, gave us their scroll, and followed Orochimaru. Then 2 teams of genin saw us with both scrolls, and fought us. I just finished healing them a moment ago, they're tied up over there. She pointed to a pile of 5 unconscious genin. Well, one of them ran away after Kiba punched out his partner, so there's 5 of them tied up, and we have 2 of each scroll now. Naruto blinked, and glanced at Kiba, then back to Hinata. You fought 6 ninjas and won. Hinata nodded, and got 3 scrolls while I was knocked out. She nodded again, and, since you're the one who uses water release, it was you who did this. He gestured around at the drenched forest, and she nodded a 3rd time. Naruto paused, and scratched his head. I can't even think of any way to describe how awesome this is. Naru-kun. She played with her fingers again, blushing subtly. Can I talk to you alone for a second? Sure, he replied, and the 2 of them moved behind one of the absurdly huge trees nearby. Hinata glanced in Kiba's direction, making sure he couldn't see them, then jumped forward and kissed Naruto. His eyes widened. It was somewhat unusual for her to move to kiss him instead of the other way round. But after a moment, the surprise wore off, and he wrapped his arms around her. A few seconds later, she broke off the kiss, and breathed out a contented and relieved sigh. I told myself I'd do that the next chance I got, she admitted, blushing a deep scarlet. When I saw that seal, the chakra in it, she shivered. I was worried, Naruto. It's all right, Hina-chan. I won't worry you like that again. Hey, Kiba yelled. I can smell your pheromones, and hear every word you're whispering. Cut the lovey-dovey crap. Hinata's blush darkened, and she winced. Naruto just laughed, though, and after a few moments, she started giggling too, although she was still blushing dark red. Hey, Hina-chan, Kiba, Naruto began when they all stopped laughing. If it's all right with you guys, I think we should give that extra set of scrolls to Gaara's team, if we find them. Hinata nodded, still smiling. They went out of their way to help us, we should pay them back. But, they're up against Orochimaru, what if they lose? Gaara scowled, and burst through the cover of the treetops with Orochimaru in his sight. Kankuro and Temari emerged flanking the Jinchuriki, and Orochimaru looked up, releasing an unconscious Sasuke Uchiha, who already bore a cursed seal identical to Naruto's. Meanwhile, a girl with long pink hair was screaming in horror, and an unconscious boy in a green jumpsuit was pinned to a tree by several kunai. Gaara had managed to fully calm himself down, and despite his mother's screams for the Sanin's blood, he observed the scene calmly. Orochimaru fled again, and while Gaara wanted nothing more than to follow the snake, he decided to do what he imagined Naruto might, and that meant confirming the other three Genin's conditions were stable before he continued. In a soothing voice, his mother murmured, "Why aren't you chasing Orochimaru? Why bother with these weaklings, when you can simply go on and prove our existence?" I just can't help but feel that Naruto Uzumaki might be right. Perhaps I can prove the value of my existence in more ways than blood and killing. That's not to say I won't kill him, and Orochimaru as well, but maybe there's more to our life than this. No, his mother replied sadly. This is what we are. We kill, to live. To continue our existence, we must end that of our opponent. This time, her sweet tone seemed somehow off, and it unnerved Gaara. Perhaps. But I will humor him, just for today. Gaara made his way to Sakura, and spoke. The words tasted bad in his mouth, but he said them anyway. Are you and your friends all right? Sasuke-kun, he's hurt, she replied shakily. He'll live, Gaara intoned solemnly. That mark on his neck won't kill him, and it should be gone soon, but are you? He glanced up at the boy pinned against the tree with kunai. And this boy in green, are you both stable? Lee's been cut by those kunai, she turned to look at the boy. It doesn't look fatal though. I'll keep him safe. Good. Gaara blinked. I wondered how Uzumaki could stand being this way, but the more I do it, the less it bothers me. Perhaps he's not as much a fool as I thought. I'll follow Orochimaru. When I kill him, that seal on Sasuke Uchiha's neck should fade away. He turned, and saw Kankuro and Temari staring at him, wide-eyed. Come with me, Temari, Kankuro, he commanded, and leapt away in pursuit of the Sannin. Meanwhile, word had reached Anko Mitarashi of Naruto's cursed seal, since the Forest of Death was lined with hidden cameras. She sprinted blindly into the Forest of Death, while night fell over her and the rest of Konoha. Anko was sprinting through the Forest of Death at her absolute top speed, using substitution jutsu to teleport whenever a suitable target like a log appeared on her path. She'd heard Jiraiya claiming his two Genin students had developed a substitution that could be used on a thrown kunai as it flew, but according to him, it required a dojutsu to use properly. For all her skill as a Tokubetsu Junin and Orochimaru's former student, she couldn't emulate that jutsu. She'd been trying periodically, but she just couldn't focus her eyes properly on the kunai she'd decided to throw. A simple twitch of her gaze brought about by the blurring motion around herself and the kunai was all it took. The jutsu failed to find its target, and did nothing. On the plus side, a miss didn't take any of her precious chakra, which she would need every drop of if she meant to defeat Orochimaru. After a few moments of thought, it occurred to her that she could throw a shuriken at a tree limb, in such a way that it struck the top of the limb. Substituting with that would put her in a standing position on top of the targeted limb, and from there she could continue the chain of tree leaping, drawing another shuriken, and substituting again. It was, after all, one of the least chakra-draining ninjutsu a shinobi could use, which meant it wouldn't drain her reserves before she attacked Orochimaru. The snake Sanin's chakra was active, and he wasn't running anymore, which made it easier for Anko to track him, but she flinched at the thought of why he'd stop running. She'd passed Sasuke Uchiha and his team during her pursuit, and knew for a fact the boy already bore a cursed seal of heaven identical to her own. There'd been no sign of Naruto Uzumaki, but she'd personally witnessed footage of Orochimaru marking him. So why, then, was Orochimaru not moving, but expending chakra? These woods were full of Chunin level or lower genin, and that just wasn't enough to warrant Orochimaru actually fighting. 24 fully prepared Chunin might keep a Sanin occupied for just under a minute, so who or what was he fighting here? And was it a threat to Anko? Was he holding back? Was he being careful, fighting a third student he planned to mark with his Juinjutsu? Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha. The Rinnegan and Sharingan. Alright, I get why he'd target those two. He wants to learn every ninjutsu, and those dujutsu will help him do it, but, what then? If he's after a third genin, why? Last I checked, a human body has only 2 eye sockets, and if he wanted a Byakugan, wouldn't he have targeted Hinata Hyuga right after he took out Naruto? Sure, Neji has it too, but why go to the trouble of tracking him down? Not to mention the caged bird seal. Even he'd have trouble breaking through a seal like that. Discover more. Books and literature. Books. Anko scowled, and drew another shuriken. Maybe he knows I'm coming. He's just throwing out chakra to draw me in. Ah, screw it. I'm just gonna have to find out anyway. Guessing won't do me any good. Naruto and Hinata each drew a kunai, since Kiba was racing far ahead of them with his Hellhound flame armor. Akamaru wasn't currently merged with him, but the boost in strength and speed from his chakra cloak alone was enough that he outpaced his 2 teammates. Naruto glanced down at the seal on the yellow hilt of his kunai, a beacon for use with his father's legendary flying thunder god jutsu. Having finally begun learning the intricate art of fuinjutsu, Naruto was all the more amazed that his father had managed to write such a complex effect into such a small seal. Not for the first time, he thought silently, space-time ninjutsu is awesome. He threw his kunai, and Hinata did the same with her own, ordinary blade, both clasping their hands together in seals and declaring, substitution jutsu. I wish I had have finished that jutsu I was working on before the exam started, Naruto grumbled silently. I miss my sword already, and it'd be a great weapon against Orochimaru, since I already know I can beat him with proper kenjutsu. I don't stand a chance with ninjutsu. But if I'd had that jutsu, it wouldn't be a problem at all. Naruto-kun. Hinata glanced over at him. Is something wrong? You've been so quiet. I'm okay, Hina-chan. I'm just thinking, that's all. He glanced up at the night sky through the trees. Gaara might be fighting Orochimaru right now, trying to get rid of my cursed seal. He's got no idea I'm already healed, and he probably needs our help. Discover more. Books. Books and literature. It's a good thing we're headed right for him. Then, Kiba observed ahead of them. Hey, did I tell you guys I have a bridge named after me? Huh, Naruto replied without thinking. Yep. Tezuna's grandson Inari came up with the name, the Aokami Kiba Bridge. See, I told him about how humans are like wolves, and we have alpha males and submissive omegas and stuff. At the time, he didn't believe me, but according to his big speech when the bridge was done, he saw a ninja girl blow by him at, like Mach 2, and came up with the idea that anyone can be an alpha wolf. Hinata blinked at that. He told me later, that this happened maybe 2 minutes after I beat the crap out of two of Getu's mooks right in front of him. He rallied the entire land of waves into an army and marched them to the bridge to fight Getu. Kiba chuckled, and added, that much I actually saw. The kid had a crossbow, and now that I think about it, where the hell did he get a crossbow? So anyway, after Wave killed Getu and his mercs with help from Zabuza and Haku, Tazuna finished the bridge, and Inari gave this huge speech about courage and how no one wolf can ever hope to conquer the rest of the pack. Then he offered up his name for the bridge, and Wave liked it. Cool. Huh, yeah, that is pretty cool, Naruto admitted. So, what happened with Zabuza and Haku, anyway? After they were done slaughtering Getu's army, they left. They were both pretty beat up. I even stabbed Zabuza with a kunai, but Haku seemed okay, and we know he has some kind of medic nin training since we met him looking for healing herbs. So I guess Haku would have been able to heal that stab wound, since Zabuza told me I hadn't struck his vitals. Kiba sighed loudly. Ah, forget it. They're missing nin, and even if they're alive it's not like we'll be seeing them again. The fire-wreathed young genin sniffed audibly. We're getting close. I can smell Gaara, and the sand in his gourd. It's a stronger scent, like it's outside of the gourd now. Does he use it for some kind of jutsu? They do call him Gaara of the Sand Waterfall. Discover more. Books and literature. Books. He must be fighting Orochimaru, Naruto growled. Gaara has his team with him, and if we get there in time we might be able to chase off Orochimaru together. Hinata, you've got a heavy advantage, he's weakest at close range. Use your gentle fist to disable his chakra network, neutralize his ninjutsu advantage. I'll shoot some wind release jutsu at him, but Kiba, what'll you do? I'm pretty good at taijutsu, and if I go deeper into Hellhound mode, I can use this chakra cloak to stop blades. It kinda interferes with normal taijutsu, though. Anyway, I'll go mid-range and use fire jutsu. Alright, so, how long can you maintain that fire release aura, anyway? I'd say my limit's about 15 minutes straight in Baskerville mode, but that's not because I run out of chakra. Both the fire cloak and my fusion with Akamaru haven't been perfected yet, so I have to take breaks, or both parts of the jutsu just fail. Sometimes it knocks me out, other times I just turn back to normal. As for chakra drain, I'd say 2 15-minute sessions with a 5-minute break in between will drain me dry. But the second level halves that time, I might be able to keep it up for 7 minutes. That's not too bad. If we can keep up with Orochimaru for 7 minutes, there'll definitely be someone who picks up on his chakra signature. They'll send backup for us, or at least I hope so. Naruto readied a kunai for his next substitution, and Hinata followed suit quickly. If not, there's 6 of us, including 2 Jinchuriki, and 2 great Dujutsu users. I'm sure we'll at least be able to figure out a way to escape Orochimaru. He threw his kunai, formed a hand seal, and called, Substitution Jutsu. Substitution Jutsu, Hinata repeated, and teleported ahead as he did. Both of them reappeared over open air, and had to land on a lower tree limb before jumping back up to Kiba's height. Naruto activated his Rinnegan and began sprinting on all fours as Kiba was doing. He gained a bit of speed from this, to his surprise, and Hinata pumped a bit of chakra into her legs to increase their strength and match his pace. Gaara suppressed the urge to aim a psychotic grin at Orochimaru, who had stopped running and was facing them. The tree all 4 shinobi were perched in was likely the biggest any of the 3 sand siblings had ever seen. Its trunk was easily 20 feet thick if not more. The Sannin stood facing them, with his back to the trunk and his arms resting passively at his sides. Well, you 3 have followed me halfway across this forest, and it's beginning to annoy me, Orochimaru said with a grin and not even the slightest hint of annoyance in his tone. What exactly do you want? Remove the cursed seal you placed on Naruto Uzumaki's neck. Oh, you're still on about that, That seal is as unbreakable to me as it is to him, Orochimaru declared, still smiling. The only possible way to remove it is to completely drain it of the chakra stored within, and it draws in and converts natural energy whenever it's drained of existing chakra. It does so fast enough to replenish chakra as it's used. In fact, most people would die from overusing it before they could ever drain it dry. I suppose if Naruto-kun could somehow treat the chakra of the cursed seal as a separate entity and fight it as a normal opponent, but even then, he'd still need the chakra of his Kyuubi to overpower the seal directly, and he proved to me when we fought that he's incapable of using it. So you're saying, you can't remove the seal? Gaara growled. Kankuro and Temari visibly flinched away from the killing intent Gaara was emitting, and even Orochimaru's eyes widened slightly. It wasn't ordinary killing intent, filled with hate, sadistic anticipation, or even a sense of duty from a shinobi with a mission. Instead, it sent a message something along the lines of "you are an ant, a minor annoyance that I, a boot, will step on because it is convenient for me. If you can't remove it, I'll just kill you. That should destroy it, and if not, at least you won't be able to use it." Gaara uncrossed his arms from over his chest, and behind him his gourd dissolved into yet more sand that pooled around his feet, ready to attack. Orochimaru grinned. "I must say, your determination is respectable, for a genin. But why are you here? Discover more. Books and literature." "Books." Gaara made no response, but he did blink at the sound of Mother's voice. "Yes, my son. Why are you here? Killing this man will prove our existence fiercely, but you don't seem concerned with that." "So why?" He made no response, and that seemed to annoy Mother. Her tone shifted to match. "Answer me, boy. Why do you forsake my guidance?" Still, he gave no reply. Shukaku finally roared, "You little brat. Answer. Answer to my whim." Gaara flinched. Mother." He whispered aloud, and his brother and sister each glanced his way. "What's wrong with you, Mother? Is Shukaku hurting your mind too?" Shukaku was startled by that accusation, and decided to tread carefully. I'm sorry, child. Perhaps you're right, I don't know what came over me. It's all right, Mother." Gaara steeled himself again, and glared at Orochimaru. "We won't let ourselves be controlled by that monster anymore." This disturbed the Biju even more. "What do you mean, controlled? Do you really think the sand demon has been? I suppose we'll find out whether it's true, when I receive the 8 trigram seal from Naruto. Kankuro, get Crow ready. Don't bother with your usual baiting trick, just attack him. Temari, hide yourself in the trees until you get a chance to use the wind scythe jutsu. I'll fight him head on with my sand, that should provide an opening for one of you." Okay. Kankuro was the first to agree. "Gaara, you're actually trying to work with us as a team. I don't understand this at all." He slid the bundle of white bandages, his real body, off his puppet's back, and set it down horizontally on the tree limb they were perched on. Then he dissolved the disguise of chakra-altered sand that covered his puppet, and moved Crow to attack. Gaara's sand accompanied the high-quality ninja puppet in its attack. Orochimaru watched the heavily armed puppet and wave of sand approach, making no move to escape. The automaton rattled loudly as it made its attack, and Orochimaru casually swatted aside its poisoned blades with Kusanagi, then jumped to a higher branch to avoid Gaara's sand. He dropped his sword and made a single-hand seal, just before Crow began spitting poison darts at the Sannin. Wind release. Erasing wind jutsu. The projectiles were scattered harmlessly. Lightning release. Thunderclap jutsu. A single lightning bolt lashed out from Orochimaru's right hand, and Gaara's sand caught it. A section of his sand was melted into glowing orange, boiling liquid glass. All 3 genin flinched and covered their ears when the real attack struck, a deafening clap of thunder that drew blood from their ears. Orochimaru's hand seals didn't slow down, and he added, "Fire release. Fire clone jutsu." 5 identical copies of the Sannin appeared at his sides, and stalked forward. Water release. Water dragon bullet jutsu. Gaara's eyes widened, and he leapt into the air, desperate to dodge this new attack. The dragon tried to curve upward and follow him, but missed low. Wind release. Great breakthrough, Gaara called with a tone of urgency, and aimed his palms downward. A gust of wind tore at the top of the liquid dragon, destabilizing and destroying it while also pushing Gaara up to the next available tree limb. Ah, I thought so, Orochimaru noted. That sand you use must be kept as a dry powder. Wetting it or melting it into glass moves it out of your control, doesn't it? Likewise if you yourself get wet, Fortunately for you, most Konoha shinobi use earth release and, well, do fire release jutsu melt your sand as well as lightning. Gaara's eyes narrowed, and he directed a tendril of sand toward one of Orochimaru's clones, detonating it violently. The flames ignited the trees nearby, but the sand was left unharmed, and Gaara retracted it. Does that answer your question? He rasped angrily. Wind scythe jutsu. Temari roared, and a blast of wind ripped apart the tree limbs that had obscured her until then. Orochimaru silently used the substitution jutsu to switch places with one of his fire clones, which was obliterated by the attack. Discover more. Books. Books and literature. Lightning release. Lightning serpent jutsu. A thin stream of yellow, crackling energy shot out of Orochimaru's right index finger, taking the form of a snake. It flew toward an exposed Temari, but was cut off by a wall of sand that was melted into glass on contact. Temari's eyes widened behind it, but she seized the opportunity and concealed herself in the trees, just before the floating wall of liquid glass that obscured her slowly fell apart. So you can exert some control over glass. Interesting. Let me fight him, Mother told him firmly. I have more chakra than you, I can kill him. Gaara ignored her, once again. There was a growing suspicion in the back of his mind, too terrible for him to put into words, too terrible for him to face. That quiet, timid voice asked him, no matter how much he wanted to ignore the thought, how do you know she's really your mother? He disregarded that thought, and gathered his sand for another attack. Kankuro's puppet once again lunged at Orochimaru, with its mechanisms clacking loudly. Orochimaru turned to face the sound, and formed a few quick hand seals. Fire release. Grand Fireball Jutsu. With his hands still clasped together in the tiger hand seal, Orochimaru breathed out a plume of orange flame that consumed Crow and further ignited the forest. Enough of this, growled a low, monstrous voice in Gaara's mind, one he had never heard before. Immediately, he realized it was Shukaku. I'm going to take control of your body, and I'm going to kill this man. Gaara screamed in sudden agony, and buried himself in sand, instantly drawing Kankuro and Temari's attention. Orochimaru sneered, and extended his right hand, aiming it at a distracted Temari and declaring, striking shadow snakes. Temari turned in time to see 6 snakes extend out of Orochimaru's sleeve, and her eyes widened in disbelief. How does he know where I'm hiding? She asked herself, and made a desperate attempt to dodge, but failed. One snake's snout hit her fan, and knocked it from her hand. The other 5 coiled around her and pulled her violently back to Orochimaru, who raised his left hand and fired a similar attack at Crow. The Sannin crushed Kankuro's puppet into pieces, and Temari winced, realizing how easily he could do the same to her. Instead, Orochimaru merely reeled her in and gently placed the edge of his sword at her throat. I'm going to kill you, he informed her, when both of your brothers are watching. One of the snakes holding her fed out its tongue, brushing her shoulder, and she flinched. Did you snakes smell through their tongues? They're mostly incapable of taste, but this one here. Orochimaru stroked the serpent's spine gently, tells me you smell quite appealing. Kankuro, meanwhile, had freed himself from the bundle of white wrapping he'd been covered in, and was reaching for a kunai. Let her go, you sick freak. First of all, no. Orochimaru directed a snake to swat aside the kunai Kankuro threw, then entangled him as he'd done with Temari. Shadow Venom Jutsu. From each of his sleeves, a snake with black scales like obsidian emerged, fing out their tongues. Second, I'm not a sick freak. It was this snake here, which claimed your sister smells delicious, and I'm certain he'd take offense to being called a sick freak, but unfortunately he's not one of the two snakes present which possess venom, so he's not the one who gets to kill you. Orochimaru grinned at their looks of horror. Yes, that's right. One black snake coiled around each sand sibling's neck, and bared their fangs. These two here. Once Gaara emerges from that sand, I'll treat him to the sight of his only remaining family dying. Oh yes, I should mention that. I killed the fourth cage this morning. The sphere of sand surrounding Gaara collapsed, and the snakes lunged forward to kill their prey. They hit two thin plates of floating sand, which they choked on. No. Gaara's voice growled slowly. Quote. I won't let you tell me what to do, I won't listen to you. His entire upper body was covered in a thick construct of hardened sand, which bore deep blue, swirling marks, with animal arms 10 feet long, and a canine head of sand. A single giant raccoon's tail extended from the base of his spine, and his gourd was apparently gone. I'll listen to Mother, but not you, demon. Never you. He shuddered as the Aikibi assaulted him mentally, but didn't bother replying further. The half-transformed Jinchuriki leapt forward to the next suitable tree limb, and directed a dozen thin blades of sand to slice through the necks of each snake, starting with the black, venomous ones. Orochimaru's grin vanished, as Kankuro and Temari were released from his grasp. Hide in the trees, retreat, Gaara ordered, and his siblings did. Now, the Jinchuriki trained his gaze on Orochimaru. I'll kill you. I'll enjoy it, yes, but we'll have to make this quick. How? Orochimaru's eyes narrowed. Suna's data told me beyond a shadow of a doubt that Gaara of the Sand Waterfall doesn't have enough control over Shukaku to think rationally in this state. He shouldn't have been able to think about saving his brother and sister. In fact, he should be completely berserk right now, but he looks more sane than he did before this transformation. He scowled. It's time I started treating these three as a valid threat. The Sannin bit his left thumb, drawing blood, and bared the snake tattoo on his right arm to wipe the blood down it. Summoning Jutsu. A colossal crimson snake appeared in a plume of white smoke between Orochimaru and Gaara. Kigachi, maim this creature, but leave it alive, the Sannin ordered. The snake lunged forward obediently. Stop. Orochimaru and Gaara both directed their attention to the newly arrived Anko, who bared her own summoning tattoo, and snarled, Kigachi, get the hell out of here. This is between two snake summoners. Kigachi sighed. Ah, I see, he said sadly in a deep, rasping voice. He turned back to Orochimaru, and recited, when two summoners of the same species do battle, both have the right to invoke this law, which will allow both summoners to banish each other's summons without spending chakra and with no resistance from the summon. This is to prevent infighting and casualties in our clan. Only the clan head, in this case Manda-sama, can remove this seal from the battle, but to do so he must choose one of you to side with. I'm afraid Manda-sama isn't the type to do that. He cares not for either of you. Discover more. Books. Books and literature. Kigachi vanished the way he'd appeared, in a puff of chakra-laced smoke. Orochimaru sighed, and addressed Anko, you do realize you have no chance of beating me now, yes? If you had have summoned Manda, and promised him 100 sacrifices, he tsked. Anko-chan, I thought I'd trained you better. Shut up, she fired back. I'm gonna be the one to kill you, not Manda. And I don't exactly have 100 human sacrifices to hand him. Orochimaru hummed. Well, I wish I could say it was interesting, seeing you after all these years, Anko-chan, but frankly I'm disappointed in you. He locked eyes with her, and she realized what was coming only a moment too late. Cursed seal of heaven, she screamed, even as she fell unconscious from the unexpected torture. Her cursed seal, after years of laying dormant, surged to life and burned her as it spread over her neck. Gaara watched her fall, landing in the branches of another, much smaller tree below. Even though she was unconscious, her body continued to convulse from the spreading cursed seal. Another Juinjutsu, Gaara observed. So you know this woman. I trained her myself, Orochimaru replied. Though not as well as I'd thought, it seems. Gaara made no reply, he simply leapt forward. The partially manifested form of Shukaku trailed a fine mist of sand as Gaara moved. You said, you killed the fourth cage this morning. Orochimaru retreated to a further away branch once Gaara got too close. That's right. I wanted to do that, Gaara snarled. Killing that man would be both revenge and further proof of my existence. He was mine. The Suna Jinchuriki began attacking, and Orochimaru blocked the limbs of sand with a hastily recovered Kusanagi. Orochimaru's 3 remaining clones all lunged at Gaara's flanks, while the real one distanced himself from the Jinchuriki. Gaara's left sand arm swatted aside one clone, his tail impaled a second, and his right hand caught and crushed the third. All 3 exploded, and Gaara's false head of sand turned its gaze back to the real Sannin. It bared its teeth in a feral grin, and growled, "Don't run away, snake. Don't bore me with a chase." He punched his right sand arm forward, and it stretched out, reaching for Orochimaru, who dodged, but said nothing. I've only just started to enjoy this battle. Ah, it seems his control over the Aikibi has faltered. Orochimaru silently began a new sequence of hand seals. Lightning release. Heaven arrow jutsu. 10 shafts of yellow light, each 2 feet long, shot out of Orochimaru's 10 fingers to stab into Gaara's sand body. The sand surrounding the points of impact was melted into glass, and Gaara let it fall free of his false body. He smoothed over the craters in the sand, leaving him with a slightly smaller sand body, and snarled at Orochimaru. Before the Jinchuriki could move, however, someone else shot past him in a black blur. After a moment, Gaara recognized Hinata, and her voice shouting fiercely, 2, 4, 8, 16 palms. Her hands slammed into Orochimaru in a blur of carefully aimed movement. Then, she put distance between herself and Orochimaru's Kusanagi, leaping to a midway point between him and Gaara. Hellhound mode. Level 2. Gaara's real eyes widened inside the sand construct as he felt a wave of intense heat wash over him, enough to warm him even through the deep, cool sand. He created a third eye of sand and aimed it backward, glimpsing the head of a fire-wreathed dog emerge through the foliage. Judging from the head alone, the creature had to be at least 15 feet tall. Its fur, under the flames, was white, and its eyes were shimmering yellow. Then, 2 more identical heads appeared on either side of the first, and all 3 gave a roar in stereo. Cerberus. The monster emerged fully, through branches and leaves that it burned as it passed. Kiba, in this new form, perched with surprising agility on a relatively thin tree limb, which caught fire under his paws. Fire release, he growled, and smoke began to pour forth from all 3 of his mouths. Ash pile burning. We got your back, Gaara, believe it. Uzumaki. His third eye looked upward, spotting Naruto in one of the tallest trees. His hands were already making seals. Rasengan. Hinata drew Gaara's attention once more by throwing her most powerful jutsu at Orochimaru, who dodged it. Wind release. Wind scythe jutsu. Temari joined in, forcing her fully opened fan through the air to launch her signature jutsu at the Sannin. Kankuro silently reattached his chakra strings to Crow's broken but still bladed limbs, and resumed fighting Orochimaru as well. Kiba's ash cloud floated forward through the air, and Orochimaru began retreating. He glanced up and trained his gaze on Naruto's neck. He broke the cursed seal. The snake realized, but could do nothing with his fury. Wind release. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki grinned spitefully down at his foe, and finished his seal sequence. Drilling air bullet. Dual Rasengan. Hinata cried, throwing 2 more spiraling spheres alongside Naruto's attack. Grand Fireball Jutsu. Kiba added. Wind Scythe Jutsu. Gaara understood what they were doing, and dissolved his entire sand body into a single flow that he directed toward Orochimaru. Sand coffin, he rasped calmly, as Shukaku's influence had mostly receded. I've had enough of this, Orochimaru muttered unhappily, and slammed his palm down onto the branch he was perched on, as the collection of powerful attacks closed in. Summoning Jutsu. Kigachi appeared once more, surprised and disoriented. While his master fled, the Crimson Snake was struck by all 6 attacks, including both of Hinata's Rasengan. He was cut by wind, ripped apart by swirling chakra, burned by chakra-laced fire, cut by more wind, and crushed from all sides by sand, not that Orochimaru knew or cared. The Sannin was already gone. Discover more. Books and literature. Books. Gaara's sand reformed into his gourd, and he dispassionately watched the snake's mangled corpse fall to the ground far below. Naruto leapt down to the same branch Gaara stood on, and beamed in the fleeing Orochimaru's general direction. Hey, Gaara, he greeted happily, and reached into his weapon's pouch. Gaara glanced down at it, wondering idly if Naruto was drawing a kunai. If so, his sand shield would stop it, but the blonde boy produced 4 scrolls, 2 heaven and 2 earth. Gaara's eyes widened very slightly. Yeah, I gotta pay you back for giving us an extra scroll, and coming out here to fight a Sannin for me, ya know. Naruto handed one of each type of scroll to his fellow Jinchuriki, who hesitated to take them. What? Don't tell me you thought I'd just forget that happened. Thanks, by the way. You did that for me and my team, and you didn't have to, so thanks. Gaara made up his mind, and took the scrolls. You've broken your Juinjutsu without help, he observed. I came out here for nothing. You tried to save me. It doesn't matter that I managed to save myself first. Naruto glanced down. Is that the exam proctor? Anko. Gaara nodded slightly. Yes. She tried to fight Orochimaru, but he activated a Juinjutsu that she already had. Then we need to take her with us to the tower. Whoever's waiting for us there can get her to a medic nin. Naruto looked around, spotting Kiba once again in his normal human form, without his fire shroud. Hey, does anyone here have a summoning contract? We're gonna need some way to carry Anko. Temari blinked in surprise, and glanced down at the incapacitated Anko. I have a contract, she spoke up. Great. Naruto replied enthusiastically. We need you to summon something to carry Anko. I don't think anyone here can just carry her all the way to the tower. Temari nodded, and swung her fan. Summoning Jutsu. In a cloud of white smoke, a giant black and white weasel leapt into existence, armed with a scythe. One of the creature's eyes was covered by an eye patch. Kamatari, Temari ordered, we need you to carry that woman and follow us. She pointed to Anko. Simple enough, Kamatari replied, and leapt down to Anko's side. Kiba finished suppressing the various fires in the area, and Hinata gave up on tracking Orochimaru with her Byakugan. Naruto leapt away to where Kankuro was gathering the fragments of crow. So, this was a ninja puppet, right? Can I help you put him back together? Kankuro gave a single, sad laugh. Thanks kid, but no. You'd just end up breaking him more. Ninja puppets are complex machines, and repairing them isn't easy. This'll take me days to fix, and I have to do it by myself. So, Kiba looked around the interior of the tower at sunrise. The hell do we do now? Naruto shrugged. Open the scrolls. That might not be wise, Gaara observed solemnly. If it turns out to be the wrong course of action, we'll be disqualified. Do we wait here until the end of the 5th day, then? Temari asked rhetorically. Meanwhile, Kamatari set Anko down and vanished in a cloud of white smoke. If we do that, and that's a mistake too, then we fail the exam, right? Kankuro questioned. I mean, Anko did say we're supposed to bring the scrolls to the tower, which we did, and we'd be disqualified if we didn't reach the tower, but here we are. Anko-sensei should wake up over the next 4 days. If we're still here by then, I'm sure she'll pass us. We rescued her from a frickin' Sannin, Kiba commented. We won't be here for 4 days, Hinata replied. All eyes turned to where she was standing, reading an inscription on the far wall. We're supposed to open the scrolls now, she said with confidence. I looked inside them with my Byakugan, there's a summoning seal on them. Well, half of one on each. Together, they should summon a random Konoha Chunin. Ah, that's pretty smart, Naruto mused. If a Chunin randomly finds themselves in front of a genin in the forest, they'd be kinda angry, right? And they'd probably have orders to disqualify that genin team. No peeking, ya know. He paused. And looking inside the scrolls with your Byakugan was genius, Hinata. If your theory turns out to be correct, Gaara noted, then she cheated. Naruto froze. Gee Gaara, you wouldn't. I see no reason to rat you out, the other Jinchuriki replied. I mean to face you in battle, at some point during this exam, and I can't do that if you're disqualified. Thank you, Gaara-kun, Hinata replied sincerely. Despite his efforts to suppress the reaction, Gaara's eyes widened at her tone. Hinata returned to where the other 5 genin were standing. So, is everyone ready? Naruto produced Team 8's a pair of scrolls, and crouched to set them on the floor. I'm all set. Kiba nodded at the Kyuubi Jinchuriki's words. Gaara silently revealed his own set of scrolls, and laid them on the floor as Naruto had done. All right, let's do this, the last Uzumaki excitedly declared, and peeled open the seals on the Heaven and Earth scrolls. If we are disqualified here, Gaara growled to Naruto, I'll still fight you outside of the exam. Naruto simply grinned as he pulled open the 2 scrolls, revealing the Fuinjutsu on both. His smile faltered briefly when he saw just how basic his own seals were, by comparison. In the split second before the seals triggered, he resolved himself to actually finish that project with the first chance he got. The scrolls he was crouched over exploded into a fine, white powdery smoke. A surprised Iruka Yumino was revealed when the smoke faded, and he looked down at the genin who had summoned him. Naruto, Iruka-sensei. The black-clad shinobi greeted with a broad smile, and hugged his former teacher. He turned to glance over at the other Chunin, and added, Mizuki-sensei. Mizuki made eye contact with Naruto, and the younger ninja was surprised by the subtle hint of distaste and hate in his elder's eyes. It was masked, of course, by a friendly smile, but this only made it more disturbing. Yo, Naruto-kun, Mizuki greeted, and although his efforts to hide it were intensive, Naruto could sense the same disgust in Mizuki's voice. I haven't seen you since you graduated, but I heard you've been training under the Sannin Jiraiya. Naruto looked away, and just barely managed to keep himself from shuddering. Mizuki-sensei, what happened to you? He forced a smile, and asked, so Iruka-sensei, this means we passed the second test, right? That's right, Naruto. Iruka beamed, then glanced past the group of genin. Is that Anko-chan? He asked, wide-eyed, and passed through the group in a hurry. Anko. She fought Orochimaru, Naruto explained, repeating the story Gaara had relayed to him. He activated her cursed seal, but he didn't actually attack her. In the back of his mind, though, Naruto was wondering incredulously, did Iruka-sensei just say? Anko-chan, her cursed seal, Iruka repeated. Damn it. He crouched over the unconscious higher-ranked ninja, and gently laid a hand on her neck, just above the seal. The curse sealing method is working again, he noted, and brushed his fingers down, directly over the seal. You said Orochimaru didn't attack her, but these bruises. She fell unconscious when the Juinjutsu triggered, Gaara explained. We were all standing in one of the tallest trees, and she fell into the canopy of a smaller one. I see, Iruka replied absently, and frowned. Anko-chan. Iruka. Mizuki spoke up, I'll take her to the medics, don't worry. He glanced toward Gaara. You 3 go with Iruka. I was supposed to accompany you out of the forest, but Iruka can take all 6 of you, and that'll leave me to carry Mitarashi-san directly to a healer. Iruka sighed, and nodded without turning to face Mizuki. All right, take care of her, he replied, then turned back to the 6 genin. The rest of you come with me. You've passed the second test, and the third one doesn't start for another 4 days. He smiled, and despite his obvious unease, it wasn't a false smile. You 6 are lucky. You get a nice long break before the next test. It actually worked. Naruto gingerly picked up the first of 3 bronze rings on the floor, now marked with a minuscule fuinjutsu on the outside of the otherwise unmarked band. There was no crystal or engraving set into the trinket, and the new seal was the only marking on it. The creator of the new tool slipped the ring onto his right middle finger, noting with satisfaction that it fit perfectly and was rather comfortable. Naruto grinned, and pulsed a bit of chakra into his fingers, triggering the seal. Storage seals are often considered a basic shinobi skill, and are startlingly versatile. Given enough time and chakra, a competent seal user can create a pocket dimension on a scroll, easily large enough to live in, although such a seal would likely take up an entire ninja scroll, and won't automatically filter in fresh air. Inversely, a seal can be made to create a storage dimension of exact size and shape, fitted to contain one and only one object. Such seals are slightly more complex, but can be written into a tiny package. Naruto, like many fuinjutsu practitioners before him, had decided to write the seal on a much larger scale, on the floor of his bedroom. He'd used a rather common sealing method to shrink it down to the intended size, once its magnified version was drawn to exact detail. The end result was that the reusable seal released his new sword into his palm instantaneously. His fingers and palm then tightened around the hilt and released chakra once more, pressing the sword back into the ring. The weapon had originally been intended for mass production within the Uzumaki clan, a signature weapon for them all to have access to, but their extermination and the fall of Uzushio had put a stop to that. It was given a name, U-1917 feet Kuroga, roughly translating to English as Black Fang. It got its name from the fact its entire construction of high-carbon steel had been blued to protect against rust, but the end result was steel that was nearly black. Discover more. Books. Books and literature. The Kuroga bore a unique, partial basket hilt, as it had been described in the paperwork Naruto had found for it in the armory. Rather than a curved hilt of steel like an ordinary cutlass, this one had a plate of blued steel armor attached to it that covered the front and outside of his hand when he wielded it. Dozens of small holes had been cut into the plate to make it slightly lighter without making it thinner. The blade was untouched by the years or decades since it had last been unsheathed. According to the history books, most of the Uzumaki had been killed off in the days of the first and second Hokage, which meant the weapon was likely 50 years old, give or take a decade. The remaining Uzumaki, including Mito Uzumaki, the first Jinchuriki no Kyuubi, brought their remaining members and assets to Konoha, including the nine-tailed demon fox sealed inside Mito, and the massive collection of weapons, mostly cutlasses, that had likely never been wielded. Naruto had found the sword amid a pile of more generic-looking weapons, haphazardly dumped in a mound of hilts and scabbards. It had occurred to Naruto that Mito herself might well have been the one to leave the armory like this, and as such, she might have been the last person to touch this sword before Naruto. That little slice of history, coupled with Naruto's newfound interest in stealthy, black shinobi clothing, had led him to choose this weapon over the countless others. That, and the sword was clearly of the highest quality he could get. The balance was perfect, the blade was razor sharp, and it somehow felt vastly sturdier than his previous cutlass. It was no sword of Kusanagi, to be fair, but Naruto was confident this one wouldn't snap in two the next time he fought Orochimaru. And he was certain there would be a next time, even if it was years down the road, even if Naruto faced him under the robes and hat of the Hokage, he would face the snake Sannin again. It would likely be much sooner than that. Orochimaru wasn't the sort of threat that just goes away after a while. He wanted a Rinnegan, and he was ready to fight for it. Okay. Naruto shook the grim thoughts from his head. Next up. Hinata's ring, then Kiba's. Discover more. Books. Books and literature. It was early evening. 12 hours ago Team 8 had finished the second phase of the Chunin exam. Naruto had already finished his other project mere hours after he arrived home, and that left him with only this remaining invention, another crucial advantage he could share with his team. These rings would bring them closer to a Chunin promotion, which in turn brought Naruto closer to a Hokage promotion. Naruto first picked up Hinata's new weapon from where it lay on his bed, and drew a tiny black seal on the wooden handle. The idea for this, targeting seal, had come from inspecting his father's Hiraishin kunai. He'd come to realize that the fuinjutsu laid on the weapon itself was startlingly simple, easy to cast on an object or a person in the middle of a heated battle. It was merely a chakra-laced target mark which made it easier to lock on to, and Naruto could replicate a weaker version of the effect with his own fuinjutsu, a subtle beacon which either a person or another seal could make use of, if they knew to look for it. Since Hinata's weapon had potential for throwing, this seal made it slightly more useful for substitution, and it also served as an additional guarantee that her new weapon would appear in her hand in the correct position when unsealed, ready to be snatched and wielded immediately. The target seal on the weapon would appear perfectly lined up with the storage seal on the ring. The Rinnegan helped him with fuinjutsu, far more so than ninjutsu. With it, he could see the chakra in his fuinjutsu ink, and could see the multiple layers of complex seal networks, even if he hadn't been the one to draw the seal. Looking at his father's Hiraishin beacon, he could see how it was assembled. He still needed to have actual skill in order to comprehend what he was looking at, but he could see it, and that was a start. In fact, it was enough to decipher this piece of the Hiraishin. He hoped that when he worked up the guts to look at the 8 trigrams seal on his chest with an active Rinnegan, it wouldn't be as intimidating as it felt right now. Even a single Biju's power, channeled back into the 10 tails, you have to stop them, Naruto. Stop the Akatsuki. The 8 trigrams seal was crucial. It was his best chance to convince Gaara to ally with him, and if 2 Jinchuriki together, rather than just one, tried to convince the other 7 to unite. Discover more. Books. Books and literature. It's not time for thoughts like this, not yet. Naruto sighed, and returned his focus to the task at hand, wiping away a mark where he'd slipped in his distraction, then started painting the same mark properly. Kiba Inuzuka was completely content with the world and his place in it. Yesterday, he'd fought one of the most feared missing nin in the world, alongside Akamaru, Naruto and Hinata. And they'd won. With the help of 3 other genin, fair enough, but they'd won without a single scratch. Not only that, but they'd shortly after that passed the second phase of the Chunin exam. Now, he was beginning the day alongside his team under a sunny sky, stretched out on a beach of white sand, still cool from the previous night, with Akamaru curled up on his chest and sleeping peacefully. Yeah, this is what it means to live. One day I'm fighting an exhilarating battle for my life, the next I'm relaxing, enjoying what I've won with my victory. Sorry I'm late, guys, Naruto's voice said quietly, and the sound of footfalls in the soft sand approached. Kiba peeked his right eye open, and glimpsed Hinata trying feebly to cover up her exposed legs. She was wearing her favorite lavender white hoodie, and under it a dark orange bikini with a skirt that went just past mid-thigh. Hinata being Hinata, she had immediately felt regret at the choice of swimwear upon arrival, the very moment she made eye contact with someone. That person had been a civilian girl of maybe 8 summers, walking by in a yellow sundress with a matching yellow bucket of sand in her left hand. Hinata had squealed, sat down cross-legged in the sand, produced a beach towel when Kiba wasn't looking, and laid it over her legs, blushing bright red. This drew a confused look from the little girl who, after a moment's consideration, decided she should just resume the return trip to her sandcastle. She gave a quiet eep sound, and quickly looked away from a shirtless Naruto. Hey, Naruto. Naru-kun, she reminded herself after a moment. Naruto stuck his hands in the pockets of his knee-length, neon orange shorts, grinning. Yo, Hina-chan, Kiba, Asuma-sensei. He greeted enthusiastically. I made you guys something. Made? Hinata questioned, surprised. Naruto pulled his hands out of his pockets once more, and unfurled his fists. In each of his palms rested a glistening bronze ring marked with a tiny fuinjutsu, and he passed the one in his right hand to Hinata. Kiba, unable to sit up with Akamaru sleeping on his chest, merely caught the ring Naruto tossed to him carefully. Watch this. He triggered the seal on his ring, releasing his new sword. Try yours, Hina-chan. Make sure the seal faces toward your palm, and pulse a bit of chakra into it. She nodded, and stood, but blushed faintly when the towel fell from her legs in doing so. She slipped on the ring, and ejected the contents of the seal, which turned out to be a 3-foot-long staff of stout, dark red cherrywood. It was roughly the proper length for kenjutsu sparring, but it clearly wasn't a sparring tool. Cherrywood was expensive, and this staff was beautifully inlaid with a swirling design of real gold. It's beautiful, she breathed, wide-eyed. I've never seen anything like it. You haven't seen anything yet, Naruto replied proudly. Maybe try the Byakugan, he suggested eagerly. She nodded, and activated her dujutsu, then gasped. A release mechanism, triggered by chakra. To release and retract, she pulsed her chakra again, unleashing a double-edged, foot-long blade from each end of the stave. Both blades were also adorned with more delicate gold inlays. Discover more. Books. Books and literature. This is incredible, Naruto-kun. A weapon like this, it must have been commissioned for me personally. It can be used non-lethally with just the stave part, and with the blades extended I can angle the weapon to block an attack, both ahead of me and behind me, almost simultaneously. And the quality of it. Who in Konoha could have made something like this? Naruto grinned. Me. Hinata mumbled in disbelief. Believe it. I got the forge level 2 working, and that means I can use the Asura path to create high-quality, permanent weapons with only my chakra and a bit of starting material to replicate. So, the gold in that staff is made of exactly the same metal as a gold coin, since that was the source material. Hinata retracted the blades into the staff, then pressed the entire weapon back into her ring, and hugged Naruto. It's perfect, she said gratefully, with a trace of awe in her voice. It's awesome, Kiba finished. But, I'm kinda stuck down here, he said with a nod to Akamaru. So, what's in mine? Is it dangerous for me to unseal, down here? You said yesterday, that kunai melt when you use your second Hellhound mode, and then later, you mentioned that the first level ruins the temper on any kunai you touch, so I made you a nice little collection of kunai that won't get damaged by heat. It took a bit of work, but I was able to borrow a trace of a really heat-resistant metal called tungsten, and I alloyed it with steel, Naruto replied. There's about 24 in that ring, and 5 Fuma Shuriken of the same metal, 'cause Fuma Shuriken are awesome. The kunai pop out first, one at a time, and when they're gone it starts releasing the shuriken. Remind me to fix that later with a second fuinjutsu. I kinda rushed it, 'cause it was getting late, and I didn't want to make you feel left out, ya know. If I gave Hina-chan that awesome staff, and you nothing, it'd be kinda rude. Thanks, Naruto, Kiba replied, and put the ring on, unsealing and resealing a shiny silver kunai without a cloth wrapping on the hilt. That's pretty wicked. Naruto turned to Asuma, who was smoking a cigarette a few yards away. Hey, Asuma-sensei, I haven't forgotten you either, he noted apologetically. Yeah, I'm gonna make you a ring too, but yours is really complex, and like I said, I ran out of time last night. Sorry. Naruto scratched the back of his neck sheepishly. Peef. Asuma blew out a stream of smoke. Don't worry about it. My chakra blades have always done the trick up, till now. Nice to have an ace in the hole, though, Kiba observed. And these things are pretty cool. Our competition in the Chunin exam won't see this coming. Naruto nodded, then turned his gaze on the tide, gently washing up over a plain of wet sand, a bit further each time. Okay, I'm going for a swim. Who's coming with me? Hinata took in the sight of the water, her chakra element, gently rolling up the beach as if reaching for her. Shish unzipped her hoodie, revealing the top half of her bikini. I'll go, she replied, but blushed when she saw where Naruto was looking. Naruto. He turned away, and wiped away a bit of blood that had trickled from his nose. The only somewhat coherent thought he could form was, she looks good. Discover more. Books. Books and literature. He wasn't, was he? Hinata shook her head imperceptibly. He wouldn't stare. Naruto wiped his nose again, and this time, she caught it. He did. He was checking me out. Oh, okay. En Naru-kun, let's go, she said shakily, and picked up a mussel shell from the sand at her feet, then threw it toward the water. Silently, she used a substitution to switch places with the shell. It hit the sand quietly, while she squealed from plunging into the frigid water. Naruto sprinted toward the water excitedly, startling Akamaru into waking on Kiba's chest. The young Ninken reared his head to watch Naruto throwing himself headfirst into the water, then yawned and stood, being careful not to scratch Kiba's bare chest with his lethally sharp claws as he jumped down to the sand below. Kiba sat up, and brushed away some sand sticking to his back, then stood and did the same to his crimson trunks. Akamaru, let's go. The juvenile Ninken woofed happily, and followed Kiba to the water. Kill them. Every last one. No. Gaara had learned to withstand the torture Shukaku was now frequently inflicting on him. Echoing under the Biju's tone, his mother screamed, begged him to give in, to appease Shukaku and free them both from agony. But Gaara refused. I will kill, only to prove my own existence, and that requires a worthy opponent, not a crowd of helpless civilians. I won't feed you. Kill them all. They don't matter. They only exist to feed us with their screams. They only exist to prolong my existence. Your existence means nothing to me. I care for only myself, I love only myself, and I live only for myself. What about me? Mother pleaded. Save me, Gaara-kun. Please. I will, Mother. By taking the 8 trigrams seal. Gaara looked up from his thoughts. Naruto Uzumaki. He has the power to defeat me. If he fails to do so, then it means his existence is weaker, mine is stronger. My path is the right one, and I will slaughter everyone he cares for. I will give you my body, and Shukaku's power, Mother, either that or I will take the seal. Gaara's bare feet sank into the white sand as he walked, arms folded over his chest. He felt in his element here, with this much sand around him he was nearly invincible. Then again, a beach paled in comparison to his native desert terrain. Kankuro and Temari had decided to let him come here alone, knowing he preferred it that way. Being the demon he was, hated as he was for it, he knew he was truly alone, and so he'd become comfortable with it. He had no brother in Kankuro, no sister in Temari, and no father in the 4th cage. Mother had always been enough. He looked up from his feet, and stopped walking. A few yards ahead of him, Naruto Uzumaki and his teammates, dripping wet and panting, had just flopped into the soft sand beneath them, smiling. Behind them, a small white dog shook water from his coat vigorously. Gaara, Naruto called, noticing the Jinchuriki of the one tail halted in his approach. The host of Kurama was smiling at him, and waving. His friends and even his sensei joined in. Come hang out with us, Naruto invited cheerfully. Gaara made his decision. He approached the Konoha team, and reluctantly set down his gourd to sit next to Naruto. You need to tell me why. Why are we so different? You should be like me, bent on proving the value of your existence. Why do you smile? Like they do, when we aren't around for them to glare at us. Naruto winced. I don't really know how to put it into words, he admitted, but I'll try. I'll tell you my story, and then I'll hear yours, yeah. Gaara nodded. Go on. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki looked down, and took a deep breath. The day I was born, the 9-tailed fox attacked this village. That's a terrible way to put it, Kurama noted. I need to tell you the whole story of that day, but later. Shaken by that confession, Naruto hesitantly continued, my father, the 4th Hokage, took me from my mother's arms and brought me into battle against the Kyuubi, where he used the 8 trigrams seal to cage it inside me. Not the whole truth, but close enough for now. I spent the first years of my life not knowing why they hated me, but I pieced it together eventually. They thought, and still think I'm the Kyuubi, not its Jinchuriki but the Kyuubi itself in human form, regaining its strength to destroy them. And the more they looked at me like that, the more it hurt. The other kids wouldn't play with me, the adults looked at me with hate, and I could barely get a meal, between the shopkeepers chasing me away, and how empty my wallet always was. No parents, no siblings, no friends. And I started to resent them for it. I started thinking, I should hurt them like they're hurting me. Discover more. Books. Books and literature. Hinata shuddered. Naruto-kun, she whispered sadly. Discover more. Books and literature. Books. Naruto glanced to her, but continued his tale. I think this is where my story and yours change. One of my academy teachers, Iruka Yumino-sensei, looked at me like a real person like he was, and he smiled. He took me to a restaurant called Ichiraku Ramen, and bought me food. I never stopped going there. Naruto smiled then, startling Gaara. When I was 9, I decided I was gonna become the Hokage of Konoha. I didn't know at the time that my dad was the 4th. I just thought if I was Hokage, the village would have to acknowledge me, look up to me, respect me. He laid a hand over Hinata's where it lay in the sand. A year after that, Hina-chan here came out of nowhere and made herself my friend. Everyone else besides Iruka-sensei looked at me, and they saw a demon, a monster. Hinata saw a human being. Things kept getting better from there, Naruto admitted. A few other kids stopped treating me like dirt, I graduated and became a genin, my problems with money even went away. I became stronger with Hina-chan's help, and now I know for sure, I'll be a great Hokage for this village, not just cause I want to, but because they need and deserve a great leader. I have a great life, and I'm happy. There are people now who care about me and acknowledge me, even love me. I see where we became different, Gaara answered. The beginning. A demon was sealed inside me, before I was even born. When I entered this world, it was already there to eat away at my soul, and even as I took my first breaths, my mother held me, weeping and dying. Naruto was the first to flinch, but his team followed suit quickly. It never got better. My older brother and sister avoided me as much as the rest of the village. The other children ran away, sometimes screaming, when they saw me, and my sand reached out to drag them back. I begged them to play with me, I cried where they could see me, but the fear was too much. I didn't even live with my father the Kazekage, I was sent to live with my uncle Yashimaru. I thought he was a good man, someone I could love like a father, right up until the night he tried to kill me, and died in that attempt. I gave up on people, then. I resolved care for and live for myself alone, to love only myself, and I burned the kanji for love into my own forehead, using sand, to show it. I began to kill. I let the beast inside me do the same. I was made a genin, assigned to missions, and I was given targets outside Suna to slaughter. All the while, assassination attempts at the command of my own father kept coming, yet more people for me to kill. I began to enjoy it, revel in it. I felt healthier, more alive, when my enemies fell in a spray of blood. I realized then, that killing was my purpose. To prove my existence and continue it, I had to slaughter those who raised their weapons against me. And I did. I killed them all, and it made me happy, I suppose. And yet, here I am, doubting my entire existence in the presence of your own. That's why I'm going to weigh my existence against yours, in this exam. I will fight you, and kill you if I win. Naruto felt sick now. So that's what it is, then. No one ever reached out to you, like they did with me. No one was there to save you from that pain. He looked away, and shivered. I'm sorry, Gaara. It must have hurt so much, but, is it really too late? Gaara blinked, and asked, what do you mean? I'll be your friend, if you want. I can help you find all the things that made me happy, and maybe you can break out of this nightmare you've been living in. So you do believe it, then, Gaara noted. You believe that my path in life is wrong. He turned his gaze to the rolling waves on the shore. In order for my existence to have true value, it must be willingly acknowledged, not proven in battle. I need to change, so that those around me truly desire my continued existence. I must become a person worth caring about. Does that sound right, Naruto Uzumaki? Is that how you would say it? I don't know. Naruto shrugged, and looked back at Gaara with a sad expression. I don't know how I'd say it, all I know is how I feel. And I feel hopeful. It doesn't matter. I'm going to test you, the only way I know how. I'm going to fight you, and whoever's existence is stronger, they'll prevail. That means that the one of us who just doesn't understand will lose, and if it's me, I'll rethink it all. If it's you, I'll kill you, since that's what I'm meant to do. Naruto looked at Gaara then, and smiled. Okay. If that's how you want me to help you, that's how I'll do it. I tried it, you know, Gaara confessed. I tried showing mercy, even compassion, in the second test. I could have unleashed my killing intent on Orochimaru, or even just killed you when I found you unconscious with your team. I didn't do that, and I'm not sure whether I'm satisfied with that decision. I don't know what choice to make, so I'm leaving it in the hands of fate, whether I receive the 8 trigrams seal or not. Fate. That's a depressing concept. Gaara turned, and glared at the newcomer, who seemed wholly unconcerned with the killing intent Gaara was trying and failing to restrain. Ah, calm down. No use getting worked up over it, said the boy with the unusually spiky ponytail. If you believe in fate, you believe that you're probably gonna get stuck with a life you don't want, and no amount of thinking though it calmly is ever gonna change the hand you've been dealt. What a drag. Who are you? Gaara asked. I'm just a guy with a shogi set, looking for a good game, Shikamaru replied with a content smirk. It's a nice day to sit on a beach and do nothing. He glanced past teammate Zegenin, and called, Yo, Asuma-san. You wanna play a few rounds? Shikamaru held up his favorite shogi set. The board was actually the top surface of the box that held the pieces. There were no frills or decorations on the set, and the painted squares were partially worn away from use. Asuma grinned, and beckoned him over, putting out his cigarette. Maybe this'll be the time I beat you, he mused. Maybe, Shikamaru noted. Winning every time is a drag, but at least you put up a fight. So where are Ino and Choji? Asuma questioned. Choji has to pack half his body weight in snacks, to take with him whenever he leaves his house. And Ino headed here before I did. She's probably scanning the beach for Sasuke as we speak. Shikamaru began setting up his pieces. She said something along the lines of, Sasuke-kun can't possibly still be in that forest. What a drag. She has no idea about Orochimaru attacking him. Orochimaru, Asuma repeated. How the hell did you? No one told me, I just pieced it together. Shikamaru smirked. And you just confirmed it. Damn. Asuma looked down. I'm never gonna outwit you, am I? It's a drag, Shikamaru avoided replying. Orochimaru, taking an interest in Konoha. And worse, he's going after Genin. Granted, I don't have a dujutsu for him to steal, but still. Fears don't always have to be rational, and I know damn well I'd never beat a Sannin in a fight. Now, if I had a 6-man team, with a Jinchuriki and 2 dujutsu, and I knew all 6 were heirs to powerful clans, or the children of Kage, or both. Meanwhile, Akamaru looked up from his second nap on Kiba's chest, when the sunlight was interrupted by the silhouette of a kunoichi reaching down to pet him. Ino was wearing a violet bikini, which immediately drew Kiba's attention when he opened his eyes. Akamaru began to lean into the hand petting him, and his tail whipped from side to side in contentment. Kiba Inuzuka, right, Ino greeted. I don't think we ever really talked in the academy. I'm Ino Yamanaka. Kiba nodded, and she went back to petting Akamaru. He's adorable. Yeah, Kiba agreed proudly, and lethal. He could probably take out most genin in this exam by himself. Is that a challenge? Ino questioned with a sly smirk. Yeah, but to him, not you, Kiba replied. Akamaru can understand human speech. He's a ninja hound, so in a few years he'll probably be able to speak. That's pretty cool, Ino admitted. So, if he understands us. Can you understand him? Yep. Akamaru barked. And Kiba added, he just said he wants to be scratched right here. He began massaging the fur behind the puppy's left ear. Akamaru yawned, and favored Kiba with a particularly thankful look. I've been wondering for a while now, in the academy, most of what you and Sakura said to anyone was, don't take that seat next to Sasuke, he's mine. So nobody really knows much about you, or even what the deal is with Sasuke. Hey, I hang out with Shikamaru and Choji, they know lots of stuff about me, she replied, and Kiba shrugged in agreement. As for Sasuke, he's hot, she declared bluntly with a shrug. I dig the whole, brooding anti-hero thing. She looked Kiba up and down, then smirked. Still, you're kinda cute too, now that I get a good look at you. Flirt, the youngest Inuzuka replied, also smirking. You don't sound like you have a problem with it, Ino noted. Hey, break it up, you two, Hinata interrupted. Hinata, of all people. There are children here. Kiba glanced around. Everyone here's a shinobi, and unless Gaara's a lot younger than he looks, we're all 12 or older. I think teenagers sounds more fitting than children. But this is just payback for the Forest of Death, isn't it? Ino glanced up at Hinata, then back to Kiba, and put the wrong 2 and 2 together. Wait. You, and Hinata? She asked incredulously. And no. Hinata shouted in a panic, then added more quietly, and Naruto. Ino nodded. Aha, I get it. And Kiba interrupted you too, when you were alone. Hinata nodded, then blushed much deeper than she had already. Wait, no, not like that. We were just kissing. Yeah, that's all I meant, Ino replied, slightly startled. She's a closet pervert, no doubt about it. I guess it runs in the Hyuga family, just like they say. Ino sighed out loud. Must have something to do with the fact their dujutsu can see through clothes. Yeah, like no one's thought of that. So the rumors are true then. Are rumors? They say Naruto awakened the Rinnegan to save you from an army of missing nin, and you two have been on each other like dogs on furniture ever since. Hey, Kiba protested. That's not true at all. Hinata added firmly. It was only 2 missing nin, Kiba was fighting one already, and we haven't been, she winced, on each other. Ino whistled, nodding, then glanced down at Kiba. You were fighting a missing nin too. 1-on-1, Kiba shrugged. 2-on-1, I had Akamaru. Besides, Asuma-sensei tired him out before I got there. And I've never seen a dog do anything to furniture in my whole life, he added, indignant. Sorry. The saying just slipped out, I guess, she replied, then added with surprise, not one single time. Nope. And I've been around a lot of dogs. Huh. Ino stroked her ponytail thoughtfully. I wonder where the expression came from, then, she shrugged. Ah, forget it. I'm going swimming, you wanna come? Sure. Shikamaru, meanwhile, watched and listened to the exchange. So, Naruto unlocked his dujutsu through some connection to Hinata. I'll have to think on that some more, later. For now, he ced another shogi tile into place. Sumi. Quote. Ouch. Asuma winced, staring down at the brutal defeat he'd just been handed. Round 2. This is all I've got to do. Shikamaru glanced up. No clouds today, he observed for the 7th time. What a drag. I'm probably gonna get sunburnt. He spotted Choji approaching the beach, wearing brown swimming trunks and a gray shirt covered in crumbs. The Akamichi heir was shoveling back potato chips like his life depended on it. You know, I've never seen Choji drinking anything. How does he keep up with the salt in those snacks? Asuma shrugged. If you haven't figured it out, asking me isn't gonna help. I wanna just say the Akamichi have a Kekkei Genkei for it, but come on. That's a weak excuse. Shikamaru began resetting the shogi pieces. And it's gonna keep bothering me, till I figure it out. What a drag, Asuma finished for him, and moved his first piece of the second game. I couldn't agree more, Shikamaru replied. Gaara saw the volleyball coming, but even if he hadn't, his sand would still have sliced it in half. The four civilians who had been playing with the ball, quite a distance away, froze, staring at Gaara. The bravest of the four, a 16-year-old boy, approached with shock and anger in his eyes. What the hell do you do that for? He asked angrily, towering over a seated Gaara. He probably thought he looked menacing. Gaara looked down at the destroyed ball calmly, then glanced at Naruto, and back up to the older boy. Quote. I'm sorry. It was a reflexive defense I have no control over. He paused, and added, please be more careful. Naruto nodded, smiling, but the boy would have none of it. More careful. You little. Gaara's eyes narrowed, and the boy shuddered. Be more careful. You The boy stepped back, wide-eyed. Gaara, it's all right, Naruto announced. You too, he addressed the civilian. I can replace your ball, calm down. Hina-chan, he called, and Hinata turned to look from her conversation with Ino and Kiba. Can you give me a hand with this? He asked, and she nodded. Naruto picked up a scrap of the destroyed volleyball as Hinata approached. I take it you play with this thing a lot, Naruto noted. Do you know what the proper size for a volleyball is? Any specific diameter? Regulation size is 65 to 67 centimeters, the boy replied numbly. Great. Naruto beamed. We can work with that. Hinata arrived, and Naruto turned his excited grin on her. Hinata, I need you to make a Rasengan, somewhere around 63 centimeters wide, if you can. She nodded. I can do it, but why? We're gonna make a volleyball, Naruto replied, as Hinata began shaping a larger than normal Rasengan with both hands. He clenched a scrap of the destroyed ball in his hand, and intoned, Asura Path, Forge, Level 2. His Rinnegan lit up in place of his normal blue eyes, and he placed his hands just above the surface of the perfect sphere of chakra. A white liquid began to leak out from under his palms, spreading over the surface of the stable Rasengan and hardening to encase it. Okay. Give it a second, alright, stop the Rasengan. Hinata nodded, and the muffled sound of spinning chakra inside the ball faded away. She removed her hand from beneath the ball, leaving it in Naruto's hands. He passed it to the boy. I know it's not quite the same, but it's enough that you and your friends can keep playing. The boy nodded thankfully, and Naruto turned to his own friends. Hinata, thanks for the help, that was pretty cool. Gaara, thanks for not killing this guy. The boy whitened. He was gonna. I was, and I am, fully capable of it, Gaara replied. On another day, I might have, but, he looked away. Get away from us, monster. No, get away. Don't hurt me, please. Gaara flinched. I just wanted to get your ball back. I just wanted to help. Monster. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. Demon. Please, don't run away. Gaara closed his eyes, and remembered where he was. A beach in Konoha, many years after that day, and it felt, almost like a second chance. But, you don't deserve to be killed, he continued. I don't deserve to kill you. It's wrong. What are you saying, Gaara? Mother whispered. Shukaku had fallen silent completely. We live to kill. Don't throw our existence away. I think I always knew about you, Gaara replied. But I didn't have the courage to face the truth. He turned away from Naruto, Hinata, and the boy with the volleyball, picked up his gourd, and started walking away. I need to go, he declared, shakily. I never had the courage to face you. But now I can't hide from it anymore. What are you talking about? Shukaku asked, voice rising with panic. My mother is dead. Beyond Team 8's hearing range, Gaara began to sob uncontrollably. You're a liar, Shukaku, you're alone in there. And I hate you. Mizuki cast one last glance around the secluded clearing outside Konoha, confident in his abilities to spot even Anbu-level ninja following him, then slung off his backpack and drew out an exact copy of the Scroll of Seals, the collection of all of Konoha's Kinjutsu and Hidenjutsu. He'd returned the original the same way he took it, after mastering a few particularly impressive Kinjutsu. As he unfurled the scroll, he grinned, recalling the money he'd made selling Kinjutsu secrets to the village hidden in sound. Mizuki Tora. Orochimaru appeared out of nowhere, directly in front of Mizuki. Damn it! Mizuki roared, and dropped the scroll to form a single seal. Multiple shadow clone jutsu. 100 fully formed clones appeared from nothing, surrounding the real Mizuki for protection. Impressive, Orochimaru noted. 100 of them. Surely you're drained from something like that. Mizuki patted his weapons pouch. I'm carrying close to 3 dozen soldier pills. Expensive little buggers, but worth it. Not necessarily. I'm not here to kill you, Mizuki. Orochimaru extended his right hand as he spoke. The Kinjutsu secrets you've been supplying me with, yes, that's right. I am the founder and leader of Odo. The Kinjutsu you've been giving to us have been beneficial, but I have an additional transaction I'd like to make with you. An assassination contract, and you'll bring the body to me. Mizuki scowled, looking around at his clones, who remained in place. A Konoha nin. Let me guess, you want a Sharingan. Kakashi Hatake. Naruto Uzumaki. He's proven himself immune to my favored method of capturing victims and recruits. I want one, or both, of his Rinnegan eyes. Orochimaru grinned. That said, I'm willing to give one to you, if that's the payment you choose. A Rinnegan eye, Mizuki replied thoughtfully. It's not that simple. Don't get me wrong, I hate the kid, as does much of the village, but if I just kill him and drag the body off, that'll pretty blatantly mark me as a traitor. This is a Biju in human form we're talking about. A priceless weapon. Mizuki smirked. I want asylum in your ninja village, a Rinnegan eye, and access to some of your secret jutsu collection. In exchange, I'll kill Naruto, give you his other eye, and serve directly under you as an officer in this army you're building. Orochimaru grinned. That deal doesn't include anything I'd object to, but I'll need to be certain of your loyalty. To that effect, I'll give you a powerful Kinjutsu, right here and now, that will serve as an additional and fearsome weapon for you, whilst also serving as a means through which I can stop you from betraying me. Mizuki's eyes narrowed. Oh, calm yourself. I couldn't kill you with it, but I could cause you excruciating pain. Enough that you'd rethink your allegiance. You're an investment, after all. Mizuki pondered this. The Kinjutsu you're offering me, tell me more about it. It's called the Cursed Seal of Earth. It draws in natural energy from the atmosphere, converts